Welcome to GreenBiz Studio. I'm Nethra Rajendran, Corporate Sustainability Manager here at GreenBiz, and I'm excited today to be speaking with Sarah Mouriño, Senior Director of Sustainability in the Americas at DP World. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do at DP World?
Yes, I recently joined DP World at the end of November as their first Director of Sustainability for the Americas. My role here is to help each of the countries and operations to implement and integrate the DP World sustainability strategy and goals and objectives into their operations.
Great. And can you share some examples from your experience where data has played a crucial role in driving decarbonization efforts within supply chains and how these insights have led to effective sustainability programs at DP World?
Data is one of the backbones of decarbonization for the freight and maritime industry. Without the ability to accurately measure our emissions, we cannot manage our emissions. I, throughout my career, have been involved in many different types of data and reporting initiatives and projects, including very detailed emission inventories for port and maritime operations, working on collaborative initiatives to develop methodologies such as the clean cargo methodology for container shipping, and also involved in the Smart Freight Center development of the Global Logistics Emission Council methodology. It for our industry, because there are so many different modes of transport, so many different touch points for a single shipment, having very well understood methodology, very well agreed upon methodology, and a methodology that is certified is something that is very important so that we all are reporting the same numbers and that we're managing the same emissions. To that end, the Global Logistics Emission Council methodology from Smart Freight Center was recently ISO certified, which is a huge step for our industry.
Thank you. And you touched on a really important point, that aspect of reporting and emissions data. Something that we see across the industry is a lack of harmonization and standardization within reporting. How does that affect your industry, and what would you like to see change to make that more streamlined?
Because we haven't had an agreed upon methodology for end to end freight until the recent ISO certification, each company or each transport operator within freight and maritime often was doing the best methodology they could find with the data and emission factors available to them to report emissions to their customers or their suppliers. But these always had slight variations. So one company could be using a certain distance and another company is using something that's slightly different. They're probably fairly similar, but you can't compare them apples to apples. For us to have in this industry a agreed upon and harmonized methodology, as freight moves so fast and there are so many different organizations involved in it, it gives us that ability to measure to measure our emissions in a way that we know that even if it moves from air freight to a truck to a port to a warehouse, we're still maintaining a consistent way of counting. And without that consistent way of counting, it's hard to know if your operations in one continent are comparable to the operations in another. And being able to have that comparison allows you to take lessons learned or programs, initiatives that have worked in one area and apply them to another. I also see that it makes creating regulations or reporting frameworks more easily integrated into our industry because you have that agreed upon solid way of accounting for our emissions that takes any of the guesswork or any of um, the questions that might come up, to know for sure this is really these are our real emissions. And when you end up in situations where countries, international organizations, regulatory agencies are starting to put in reporting requirements that do actually have real operational changes associated with them, that harmonization of data, that solid methodology becomes even more crucial.
Great. And with the rising importance of this data that you mentioned in decarbonization efforts, how can companies like DP World leverage data-driven insights to make more informed decisions that actually contribute to their sustainability goals?
I think that's a really important question. The challenge that our industry has, particularly for ports and maritime, is knowing exactly which pieces of equipment we need to transition and when. For me, one of the things that I've worked really hard on in my career is doing what's called activity-based emission inventories, where I work with the operations to know specifically which piece of equipment is being used, how many hours, in what mode, um, what does its duty cycle look like, because I want to put a picture together of how that unit is being used and what the benefit is of changing it to a different kind of technology, and what kinds of technology then would be applicable for that piece of equipment. Having all of that data and being able to build that profile for that one rubber tire gantry crane or yard truck is, in my view, essential for decarbonization of ports and terminals, because without that, I can put together, fleet turnover plans based on useful life, but I might not be accurately capturing exactly those 5 pieces of equipment that are most heavily used and are producing the majority of the emissions. And I might target equipment that is lesser used and wouldn't have as much impact on our overall emission reduction.
Thank you for all those wonderful insights, Sarah. We really appreciate you being here with GreenBiz Studio. And to our audience, you just heard from Sarah Mouriño at DP World. And again, I'm Nethra Rajendran. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of GreenBiz Studio.